What is up? What is going on, everybody? I am back with a quick analysis of the Seattle Seahawks 2023 schedule. Already did this video. I did it with a screen recording with the schedule there, and I ended up botching it and deleting it instead of saving it. So no screen on this one. I'm just going to kind of go through the schedule. I mean, you guys can pull it up if you have it, so you're not going to need it on the screen or anything like that. But let's go through it real quick. Give my take on it. Listen, at the end of the day, we already knew who the Seahawks were going to play this season. So none of this should really change your opinion of the team this year. But it is interesting to see where they line up. You know, are they playing teams coming off long breaks? Where do the Seahawks have a longer break? Are they playing teams in prime time, a road game in prime time like their game against the Giants? Maybe that's a little bit tougher of a game now because now you're going to have that crowd that's raucous, ready to go on a Monday night, tailgating like crazy. Maybe that game becomes a little tougher. Maybe some of the games become more winnable for what you think, just because of, you know, where they're at or stuff like that, and then who they played the previous week. So it matters. Again, if you think a team is bad, I don't think this changes it. And if you think the team is good, I don't think this changes it. But it's interesting to line it up. So Seattle will start the season at home against the Rams on September 10th at 1:25. You know, interesting. Seattle opens at home because this is the year the NFC has 8 home games and 9 road games. So that means after this Week 1 game, Seattle has only 7 home games left and still 9 road games to go. So it'd be important for them to get off to a good start here. You certainly never call Week 1 a must-win, but against a Rams team that I think people are expecting to be pretty bad. Now, I don't know on the Rams, to be honest, because you still have Stafford, you still got Kupp, still got Aaron Donald. You got those 3 and Sean McVay. I think they could still be competitive, but most people seem to think they're going to be pretty rough this year. And Seattle's getting them at home, so that helps. It would be nice for Seattle to get off to a start here and get that W, because you don't want to start 0-1. Then you're on the road, and then you're just looking at, we only have 7 home games left, 9 road games. It makes it a lot tougher. Getting that first win would go a long way for this team. So definitely a winnable game to start the season, which is nice. So yeah, Seahawks open up against the Rams at home. Week 2 is going to be a 10 a.m. game at Detroit. It'll be Detroit's home opener. Detroit plays Kansas City on the Thursday nighter to start the season. So there you go, already a little nuance, as Detroit will get a little bit of extra rest for that game. That's going to be a tough one. Listen, Detroit's a pretty good team. They're going to be having their home opener. They're going to have some extra rest. I don't know if they'll have revenge on their mind from last year. Seattle sort of, I mean, Seattle didn't keep Detroit out of the playoffs. Detroit kept Detroit out of the playoffs by not winning enough games, and that's not a diss. If Seattle didn't get it out, I said the same thing. Detroit didn't knock them out. Seattle didn't do enough to get in. But, you know, in a weird way, that Week 4 game not in a weird way, it was, that Week 4 game last year, that crazy 48-45 game, determined the last playoff spot in the NFC. Who would have thought when that game was happening that was going to do that? That's going to be a tough one for the Seahawks. I would think that's a game that I might have as a loss, at least initially. You know, we'll see how things go. You know, we never know how some of these teams are going to be. You know, we can go through this, and if I would have told you last year when the schedule came out that the Seahawks were going to sweep the Rams, you would have said I was an idiot. And I didn't say they would. I'm just saying, like, if I would, you guys would have thought I was crazy. The defending champs and the Seahawks who just traded Russell Wilson are going to sweep the Rams? No way. So you never know what's going to happen. But that's a tough first road game for the Hawks. And again, against not only a good Lions team, but a Lions team will have a little extra rest as well. Week 3, Seattle comes home, and they will get to face Bryce Young for the first time, the #1 pick in the draft, as the Panthers come to town. Another tough game. I think Carolina's the favorites in the South. They're pretty good in the trenches, and now they should have some decent quarterback play to go along with it. Panthers did come up and kick Seattle's butt pretty good this year, or last year, however you want to look at it. So from that standpoint, yeah, now it was sort of a turnover bombardment. Seattle came back a little bit, but a definite winnable game, a very winnable game for the Seahawks. And listen, 2 out of the first 3, I think Seattle's going to be favored. So a chance to start this year 2-1. I think they'll be favored against the Rams. They'll likely be underdogs in Detroit, and I think they'll be slight favorites against the Panthers at home. So I don't know. You know, who knows what's going to happen when we get there. But a chance for the Seahawks to get a couple wins to start. But again, tough too. I don't think the Rams and Panthers are just going to be cakewalks either. Seattle struggled a bit with the Rams last year with John Wolford and Baker Mayfield, and no Aaron Donald and no Cooper Kupp. So we'll see. And then they lost to the Panthers last year. So decent chance to get a couple wins, but they've got to play good football too. Week 4, Seahawks go to New York to face the Giants. That'll be a Monday night football game. I'm not going to lie, I might prefer that to be a 1 p.m. game, but it's also nice it's not a 10 a.m. game. So there shouldn't be any body clock issues for the Seahawks. Giants are a team kind of similar to Seattle. Wasn't expected to do much last year. A ton of respect for Brian Daboll and what he's done. I'm not big on Daniel Jones, but I do like the addition of Darren Waller. And I think they've got some interesting options there. And then they've beefed up that offensive line, which is getting better with Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Saquon Barkley. Julian Love will return home, if that means anything for Giants fans. I know they all spoke very highly of him. So that'll be a fun one. Again, a winnable game, but also a losable one. That's kind of a 50-50 to me. I think if you look at these 4 games here, if we kind of break it down by quadrants of 4, I know there's 17, but it is what it is. I think, I think all 4 are actually winnable. I do. I don't think Seattle's going to be 4-0, but I do think those are 4 winnable football games. I'm not going into any one of those thinking Seattle doesn't have a chance to win the football game. Week 5, Seattle will be idle on a bye. And then in week 6, the Seahawks will travel to Cincinnati to take on Joe Burrow and the Bengals, who Super Bowl 2 years ago, AFC Championship 2 years in a row. Probably the best team I think Seattle's going to, probably the toughest game I think for the Seahawks this year on paper right now. That's a game that it's a 10 a.m. game. I'd be hard pressed to find Seattle winning that one. Listen, if I thought Seattle was the NFC's best team, I'd be hard pressed to see them going cross-country road game to an AFC team and winning it. That's going to be a very, very tough football game. So that could definitely be one that the Seahawks drop. Now, the good news is the Seahawks are coming off a bye, so a little bit of rest there. Another early bye for the Seahawks. I feel like they always have early bye weeks. But anyways, so that's going to help. But Cincinnati's a really, really good football team regardless. So we'll see. Nice thing for the Seahawks, though, after the Bengals, they do come home for 2 games, and I think 2 somewhat winnable football games here. The Cardinals in Week 7 at 1 p.m. and the Browns in Week 8 at 1 p.m. The Cardinals kind of in a rebuilding phase. They do have a veteran quarterback in Kyler Murray who is capable. So I don't want to just write them off. The Cardinals and Rams are in weird spots because they're not expected to do much, but they have decent quarterback play. If you can get that, you can be competitive, even if the rest of the roster isn't there yet. I certainly don't think the Cardinals are going to be very good. I think that's another game Seattle will be favored in. My guess is Seattle will be favored against the Rams, underdog Detroit, favored Panthers, underdog Giants, underdog Bengals, favored against the Cardinals. Again, going off of what we know right now. So definitely a game I think Seattle should win. I wouldn't take it for granted that they'll win it, but definitely I think a very winnable game. And I think Cleveland is as well. Now, Deshaun Watson has, another full offseason under his belt, and then having gotten back on the field last year for Cleveland. So I would expect some improvement from him this year. But I think in Lumen Field, that's a game Seattle is capable of winning. So after the Bengals game, coming home for, again, not easy games necessarily, but 2 very winnable games. After the Browns, Seattle is, hold on, they're missing one. Yeah, they're missing the Ravens game on here. Okay, because it goes right to the Commanders. Seattle does not have 3 straight home games. After the Browns, Seattle's on the road to Baltimore. So kind of that middle quadrant there, you got 2 bookend tough road games against Baltimore and Cincinnati. That'll be a tough one on the road against Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh. Always a tough team. It's a 10 a.m. game. I cannot say 10 a.m. today. 10 a.m. game. That won't be easy. So, yeah, that'll be a tough one, but should always be fun. Should be a fun one. Last time Seattle went to Baltimore, well, actually, last time they went to Baltimore, they won. That was 2015? Yeah, 2015 they last went to Baltimore. Yep, and they won that game against Jimmy Clausen and the Ravens. And then if you remember, Seattle was in Baltimore in 2003, and that was just a disaster of a game because Seattle was up 41-24 with like 6 minutes to go and blew it. And then there was like a 5th down. I don't remember all all that game. It was Anthony Wright for the Ravens went off. That's all I remember about that one. But that was the last 2 trips to Baltimore. Then Seattle, again, after that, a couple winnable football games before we get into the gauntlet, as I'll call it. Seattle will come home to face the Commanders. That'll be at 125, that local time for Seattle people, against Washington. Again, that's probably a game Seattle will be favored in as of right now. Don't know how Sam Howell's going to do. You know, Ron Rivera teams are always pretty well coached. They always play hard, so I would expect a battle, but that's a game Seattle should be favored in. Then at the Rams the following week at 125 on the road, this time in L.A. Again, I would expect as of right now a game Seattle probably slight favorites in, so you know, you've got those tough games with the Bengals and the Ravens, but after them, you've got a couple winnable games coming up there. So a chance for the Seahawks to maybe get some wins if they do drop that Bengals and Ravens game. Now we get into the gauntlet, as I'll call it. Home against the Niners, at the Cowboys, at the Niners, and home against the Eagles. That is Murderer's Row. Win 2 games, and I will sing the praises of whatever you want me to, if Seattle can come out of that 2-2. I'd probably be okay with 1-3. It'll depend on Seattle's record going into those 4 games, obviously. 1-3 might just not cut it. But I do think there's a couple winnable in there. 2 of them are at home, so let's start out. Let's just go through it one by one. Thanksgiving Day, the Seahawks will host 49ers. That'll be fun. That's a game I'm looking forward to the most. Get some great turkey, spend time with the family, then curl up at night for a little Niners Seahawks. Always fun. Seattle's 3rd time playing on Thanksgiving that I remember. In 2008, they were in Dallas. 2014, they were in San Francisco. Lost to Dallas in 2008, beat the Niners in 2014. First Seattle home game definitely on Thanksgiving. I don't know. I want to say in the 70s or 80s they did play at Dallas once on Thanksgiving. I don't remember, though, for certain. But definitely Seattle's first home Thanksgiving game. So that'll be a lot of fun. And that'll be on Thursday night. Seattle then plays again on Thursday night the following week at Dallas against the Cowboys. They always seem to do that. Dallas will play back-to-back Thursday games. So no extra rest for the Cowboys. You're not playing them on a different rest level or anything like that. So Seattle will get Dallas the week after Thanksgiving on Thursday. And that will give them extra rest before they head to San Francisco to play the Niners again. And I believe the Niners play the Eagles in between there. So the Niners have a rough stretch there too. So Seattle will get, you know, Niners, Dallas, Niners, and the Niners will get Seahawks, Eagles, Seahawks. And the Seahawks will actually get the extra rest before the second Niners game. So use that to their benefit. And then after that, the gauntlet finishes up with the Eagles coming into town on December 17th on a Sunday. That'll be a fun one, as my wife and her family are Eagles fans, so we always have a good time getting together for those games. Seattle's beaten up on the Eagles pretty much the last few times they played, so hopefully they can keep that going for this one. Listen, that's a brutal stretch. We know what the Niners and Eagles, there's three games in that stretch are against the 2 teams that played in the NFC Championship game. And Dallas, the other team, wasn't far off from beating the Niners and being in that NFC Championship game. So it's not going to be easy, an easy stretch at all there. 2 of the games are at home. That helps. Getting the Eagles and Niners, obviously got to play the Niners at home once, but getting them at home there. I'm a little disappointed Seattle doesn't get an earlier game against the Niners. They're going to have some quarterback questions to kind of figure out early. Brock Purdy's hurt. They got Darnold. You got Trey Lance. By week 12, week 14, you figure Kyle Shanahan is kind of going to have that all figured out, which stinks a little bit. But it is what it is. So, and Seattle played San Francisco early last year, and it didn't make a darn difference. So, that'll be interesting. That'll be fun. Like I said, that is the gauntlet. If you go 2-2, I mean, assuming 2-2 is enough, then sign me up. After that, 3 winnable games to close the year. Again, I don't necessarily think they'll go 3-0, but 3 winnable games. Seattle will be at Tennessee for a 10 a.m. game on Christmas Eve. They'll be home against the Steelers on New Year's Eve, and then at Arizona to finish out the season. So, again, Tennessee's always tough with Mike Vrabel. They're kind of going through a little bit too now. Will Levis be in there at that point? Are they going to kind of be looking for a rebuild there? Or is Ryan Tannehill going to be okay? They're going to be in position to maybe be a playoff team. Pittsburgh's always tough with Mike Tomlin. and company, and I love the draft they had this year. But again, in Seattle, a very winnable football game, and again, Arizona as well. So do I think Seattle's going to finish that stretch 3-0? Probably not, but a chance to maybe 2-1 and finish the year off strong. Now, one thing I want to talk about, where will Seattle be wearing the throwback uniforms? They will be unveiling the classic Seahawks look from the 80s, 90s, 70s that they wore. My guess for the two games that Seattle will wear the throwbacks are going to be the Thanksgiving game against the Niners, I would assume, is in prime time. They'll want to show them off. So I would be absolutely shocked if they don't wear them then. And then my guess would be the Cardinals in October. It'll be Seattle's third home game of the year. I think that will be the other spot where they will wear the throwback. So I think the Cardinals and the Niners will both be getting to see the throwback jerseys. It would just be my guess based on the schedule. They won't wear them week 1. I don't think they'll wear them week 3 quite yet either. I think the third home game is usually when we kind of see those things brought out, and it just makes sense in prime time as well. So that's the Seahawks 2023 schedule. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Give me a record prediction. I can't give a record prediction. Like, I honestly, outside of, I think they're going to drop at least one of the Niners games and probably Cincinnati, I think they're all winnable. I'm not saying they're going 15-2. That's not my prediction on the season. They're going to drop a couple games in there. But I do think all the other games are winnable. I think going in, they'll have a shot. I'm not saying they don't have a shot in Cincinnati, but that's going to be a really tough game. I can't imagine they're going to sweep the 49ers. And I can't imagine, like, that gauntlet that they're going to come out 3-1. But I do think Dallas is winnable. I think the Eagles at home is winnable. Like I said, I don't think they're going to win all, but I do think they are winnable. So let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. Let me know if you're going to any of the games, what game you're most excited for. For me, it's the Niners and the Eagles games I'm most excited for, assuming the season goes well. And opening day is always a ton of fun, so looking forward to that as well. Hope you guys all have a great night. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and my breakdown of the Seahawks schedule. I will see you guys tomorrow for my Mariners postgame. As always, go M's, go Hawks, and have a great night. Peace.